Hi guys, welcome to the video. Today I'd like to introduce you to a plein air palette that I organised last year and I've been using a lot this year. So there's nothing extremely special about the palette. It's a little pink palette from Amazon, but it's filled with some beautiful treasures of colours. So when I created this, I was planning to put it inside this pencil roll. So this is actually from Primrose Yarn Company, and it is actually a knitting needle roll. So, but I have a whole video about it. I did pull out some of the stitching so I could fit more pencils in there, but I really love this. And in the back pocket there, I could fit two palettes. So the pink one that we're going to talk about today and the little black schminker one. And I took this everywhere last summer. I really loved it. I probably didn't use the palette as much. I think I used the pencils a little bit more at that time. But this year I have just been taking this palette outside and just doing 5-minute sketches with it. So you can see kind of the colours swatched out here, and yeah, we'll go, you can see like just there, it's quite beautiful. You have quite a few like soft pinks there, but yeah, anyway, we'll talk about kind of how and why I did the palette. But this sketchbook I have been using, it's finished now, and I've been using it probably once or twice every couple of weeks, and just literally doing 5-minute sketches. So in the beginning here, I always like to come back and do the beginning at the end of the sketchbook, so I kind of know what the sketchbook's about and I can kind of introduce the sketchbook. So I used this Derwent XL graphite, and I've just taken my brush and just picked up as if it was watercolor and just basically used it like that. So I wanted to do kind of a grayscale version of the paintings that we're going to see throughout the this sketchbook, because these are kind of more in explorations of color, I think, more. So this was the first one, and I literally had like 2 minutes. Millie was just a puppy, and I really was quite nervous doing this. But I really like how this one came out. Then this second one here, I was more trying to just fill the page. So, and then the third one here, I started to focus a little bit more on form. And yeah, neither of these I'm really happy with the colors in them, but they were just kind of stepping stones in, you know, in this progress of this journey. So this one here, I just did a little cloud. Often there's like one little cloud in the sky that will just really catch my attention. And then this one here, I really like the shapes, but I don't like the colors again. Yeah, but you can see like it's interesting kind of progressing and trying to just work on little bits of what you're doing. So this one here, I really loved the colors of both these pages. So I was focusing more on these really vast blues and just how beautiful it was. And I think this is a really good kind of page that shows how important color is. So even if the form's not quite there yet, the color will make up for that. And yeah, this one I took the most time out of the whole book, and that was just kind of to sketch out the like barn and just kind of looking around more like at what's there. This page I tried like a different brush on the other one, and then this one was just more about how blue the water was in the middle of the day. It was like the darkest thing on the horizon. And this one was pretty unsuccessful, but I did like just these little bits of the darker brown with the white pencil on them. So that's something kind of to explore more when I don't have Millie and I can kind of focus and do it a little bit better. So these again pages were about like the blue sky and just kind of the texture of the mountains. So in this one here, I used a bit of the Shimmer Iron Glimmer, so it's like a shimmery kind of black or black brown. And then this one we did together on the last video. So this is where I think I started using a little bit of the palette in the last video. So some of these, I think all the ones up until now have been with the palette we'll talk about today, and then a couple of them are with the palette from last time. But I love how these pages turned out. I really, really love that. So these again are some unsuccessful pages. Again, I took a little bit more time with these, and they just didn't really work out. So then these pages, I really loved this. So these were where I really feel like the color and the form sort of started coming together, and you know, you can see here how it's taken quite a few sketches and quite a few attempts to start to bring some of these things together, and especially because these are only very small attempts, but I do spend time like thinking about it afterwards. What could I have changed? You know, what colors could I mix next time? So it's very helpful to kind of have some of those thoughts prepared before you go and do something, especially because you only have a few moments to kind of try and capture it. So this one here again, not super successful. And then this one here, I was trying kind of more of a night scene, and you'll see in a second. So this was just what I did out on plein air, and then I just did add a little bit of this indigo and black, just a bit in the sky and a bit on the mountains, sort of on the right there more. And yeah, you can see how that brings it a little bit more together. So just that one extra kind of glaze will, you know, can really add to that. Yeah, so again, this is just another page. I do quite like how both these come out. We did this one today. We do it in a little while. And then, yep, this was one we did in the snow in a video. And that will require some more work next winter, I think. And then, yeah, we swatched the favourite watercolors for 2023 for last year and did some kind of colour comparisons. And so, yeah, that kind of brings us up to the sketchbook. When I did these colour comparisons, I could tell from the, always when you put like a red or like the Isera rose on a page, you can kind of tell if the sizing's starting to go. There's sort of white specklings under it. So that's what actually prompted me just to forget about being precious with the notebook, like the sketchbook, and just start using it. So that's what I did. And yeah, I'm really happy that, to kind of have done that this beginning of this year. So you could see there the ones we swatched last time for the palette, and this will be today's palette. So this was a really lovely palette to create last year. I had, and you can see here, this is the Da Vinci number 10. It's a small, like a short handle brush, but it's been really interesting to use. So we're going to use this for the swatches today, as I've been kind of trying to use this a little bit more and get a bit used to it. So as usual, I put I take the paintbrush and put a little dot of water on before we start, just to start to wake up those creative muscles. And yeah, this palette though, I really enjoyed putting this together. A lot of these are Greenleaf and Blueberry, and this was the first time I was able to get some of those, and yeah, they're very beautiful, and I was really happy with it. So this is the Greenleaf and Blueberry Pyrrole Red. So you can see that I'm doing a swatch with like a stronger saturation, and then we rinse out the brush, and I do a very light version because often I will like to kind of see how light these colors do go. This again is Greenleaf and Blueberry Benzim Orange. I think it might have a longer name than that, but it's basically their orange. It's a slightly more muted version than like my normal Pyrrole Orange that I'll use from Daniel Smith. But I think it works well for plein air, especially because you often want something a little bit more muted. This one here is the Winsor & Newton Cadmium Free Lemon Yellow. I love mixing this with ochres and burnt sienna type colours to make my own warm yellows. And yes, then we start on like these kind of pinky and violet earths and all these yummy colours. So I really love this page. this is the Greenleaf and Blueberry Swiss Violet Earth. So this is one of their limited edition colours. They don't always have it in stock. Like it's out of stock at the minute, but I highly recommend this one. I love, love, love the granules in it. And especially doing something like these plein air paintings, this brings so much texture in a very, very quick way to the painting. You know, like this is what I use a lot for the mountains. You can see here, this one here is also pink pipestone. So this one also has that same granular effect. This one is, Greenleaf and Blueberry do have one. It's always been out of stock for me. I haven't been able to get my hands on it, but this one is from Rivervale Watercolor. So she will sometimes have them in stock, and it's a beautiful version. I really love her colors as well. So this one is Daniel Smith's Sedona. It is like a version of Burnt Sienna. It's kind of quite a pinky undertoned version. So when you mix this with white, like I'll show you in a minute, this has a really kind of a beautiful, beautiful muted pink. So yeah, I have always loved this color, and yeah, it's really a nice one. This one here is from Creamer Pigments. This is their Thulite. And again, so it just comes in a full pan, I think. But again, Greenleaf and Blueberry do have a version of this they brought out this year, actually, I think. It's called Rosaline, which I think is a really nice name for this colour. So, yeah, it's just a lovely, lovely, soft one. Again, it has a little bit of a granular quality to it, which I really love. This one here is kind of like a burnt sienna, or like a pink mixed with pearlescent white. So both this one and the next one that we swatch are something like a burnt sienna, or like the Sedona, with a little bit of either pearlescent white or titanium white. And then possibly like a touch of, so these two are my colours that I made, but it's got like a touch of, so I would mix a bit of Isero Rose in it, but it's like a Quin Pink as well you could mix in with it. Just something like that to kind of get this kind of muted pink. And yeah, just beautiful colours too, especially like for landscapes and things, very soft colours. I really love the like the Monets that are the very, very soft early morning haystacks and things like that, where there's just like kind of these barely there tones. I really love it. So yeah, I think that's kind of why I have those on my palette. I feel like I really enjoy painting with those. And like I always say, just one of the most important things about your palette is that you enjoy painting with it. So yeah. You can also see here the difference in these swatches to the first ones that I showed you, just on the one page in the sketchbook. And this is why I say it's always so important to swatch your colours and kind of figure out the breadth of them, like how you can use them, you know, what value range each colour has, what qualities it has, you know, when you're painting with it. It's a really lovely way to figure out and think about the colours that you have. So this one here is Greenleaf, let me see, is it Greenleaf and Blueberry Malachite? Again, a beautiful one. I love a lot of their colours for this texture that they bring to the painting. I really, really enjoy using it. So this is one of my colours, but you could get something very similar to this with like the malachite and the lemon yellow. I think it's a very nice cheerful green, and I really love just having it in the palette. Like when I open the palette, I really like the way that it looks, and yeah, just kind of very inviting to paint with. So yeah, like it's something I could take out of the palette, but I just enjoy having it there. So this one here is another one that I offered. This is this was Olive Pearl, and this one is if you mix a brighter, so a lot of the pigments that I get aren't usual pigments that you can kind of find in paints. So trying to think of like equivalents. So if you kind of mix maybe a phthalo green or something a little bit brighter with a white, and then mute it down with a little bit of an ochre, yeah, then that's kind of how you'd get something like that. This one here is a Greenleaf and Blueberry Barite, and I just love the it's kind of like a bit of it's a slightly, I was going to say a slightly warm grey, but it's almost probably a bit cooler than their other like eggshell or their other ones. But it's just a real, it's not like quite a cool grey. It's sort of a cool grey, but it's kind of a mid-tone. So it's a really, really beautiful one as far as being a very, very sheer and kind of nice, soft, almost white. This one here is, let's see, which one was it? I think this is their French Earth, Greenleaf and Blueberry French Earth. Yeah, I went back and checked, it's their French Earth. So this is one that I have in my main palette here, you can see, and I am almost out, so I've actually ordered a new one of those. But this is such a beautiful, soft, again, granular, kind of an olive brown. It's just a really, really beautiful one. So let's work on the blues here. This one is ultramarine blue, I think. I think this is ultramarine blue. This is from Greenleaf and Blueberry as well. And I don't often use an ultramarine. Like, I've never really had one in a palette before, so I thought it would be a nice one to kind of try and, yeah, just see how it goes. So you can see how staining this color is, or how like strong it is. So I'm dipping my brush the same way I was before, just once in the water to get the next swatch, just not dunking the whole thing, just a little kind of dipping it in the water. I'll show you in a minute. And yeah, there's still so much pigment, like it's quite a rich and strong pigment. So yeah, very beautiful. I decided to kind of do 3 swatches of that here so I could get it to the lightest value. But yeah, really, really lovely. So it's been interesting having this on the palette. I have used it just a tad here and there, so quite nice. You can see, like, I'm pointing to ones that have very strong saturation. You only need to dip your brush. Like, I have used them all, but they're barely noticeably used. So this one here is the Greenleaf and Blueberry. I think this is their Verdita. Let me just check. Yeah, so this is the Greenleaf and Blueberry Verdita, and this is just a beautiful, it's another granular one. So it's got these little kind of grains in the pigment, and just really, really love it. I have been using this one to mix with everything from clouds to skies to the mountains, and just I really, really love popping this in into the mix somewhere. So I will show you, we'll paint with this in a little bit. And this one here is actually a Gallo. So this is their Zirconium Blue, which again is another beautiful one. Again, it has some of these similar qualities, which I just find so useful in these plein air paintings, and really to kind of bring some of that movement and life into the painting. And you'll often hear actually Liz Steele talk about this. So with her palette, she has created it so that each pigment has quite a lot of granulation, so that they play on the page, and she calls it like they have a pigment party, and she really gets a lot out of that. And you know, without having to do too much work on the page, you're seeing this come to life. So yeah, I have kind of a slightly different like it's not just granulating, but I really do like those granular qualities, and I feel like it does a similar thing. So this one here is also a Gallo, and this is their copper. Again, just a really beautiful soft blue. And yeah, this one here is one of mine, and again, it's not a pigment that you would find sort of commercially, but the copper, you'll see here, if you mixed just a tad of white in with that copper, you're going to get it's a very similar color to that copper, just a little bit of white added. And so I put this in because I had a full pan of it. I would have probably just used a half pan, but I really do like the way that the palette looks. But I have been thinking about, you know, taking out some of these full pans and putting in like I really need a perylene green, like a dark green, and just some more useful colors. So I'm not sure, we'll see how that goes, but for now I've been really loving this palette. And so yeah, you can see kind of here the colors dry. So this one here is the Greenleaf and Blueberry Ultramarine Violet, and yeah, just a really lovely kind of version. Again, very strong tinting strength, so I think more so than a regular ultramarine violet that you'd find as well, which is really nice. And yeah, just very again, just I really also like it in these very soft tones as well. So the next one here, this is again one of mine, and this one is probably quite similar to Daniel Smith Lilac. You could also use something like the Winsor & Newton Smalt and mix that with white. So I have a whole video on like how I just mix my own half pans, squeezing them kind of in a little bit of each and then mixing it with like a sewing needle. So you can see here, like I just do one little dip and then do the next swatch, the lighter swatch. But some of those really staining colors kind of need a couple of pretty serious dips. So this one here that I've just squeezed into the lid, this is Purpurite, and this has been one of my go-to colors in the last year, I'd say. So this is Daniel Smith, and I absolutely love this color as well. This has a very beautiful granulation pattern, and it's just kind of a muted purple, so it just works quite nicely for mixing with a lot of these things. Some of those pages I really liked. I mixed it with the Sedona and those kind of muted pinks that we've swatched. So yeah, just a really beautiful one. You can see sometimes if I think it's still got a bit much pigment there, I will dip it again, and that's just how I do it. It's not even putting the whole ferrule in, the silver part or the gold part. You're just dipping the kind of the tips of the brush in there. And then this one here is the, let's see, this is the Greenleaf and Blueberry. I think this is called their slate grey, and yeah, just a very nice kind of grey. It's very interesting grey. It's got quite a quite an interesting kind of undertones in it. So however kind of the pigments that they've made this one, it's quite a nice one to work with and to use. Possibly this is just made with one pigment that comes from like a slate stone or something. But when you use it, it's got a little bit of a dimensional quality to it. I'm not sure how to explain that. Maybe the rocks had quite a bit of different colouring in them. So yeah, it's not just a flat colour, if that makes sense. Yeah. I've also been working on this shoe because for the paintings I wanted to give a freebie. So all of the minis got a complementing mini to kind of match. And then one lady bought 3 to hang as a trio next to a beautiful 18th century style pink mirror. So I love that idea, and yeah, so it's always so exciting to hear and see what you do with things. Let's see, this is, yeah, so what we're going to do now is I want to show you how kind of some of my thought process when I'm mixing. So this is Vedita and the Ultramarine Violet. So again, blues and purples always mix well. I'm adding in a little bit of the Violet Earth here, and again, any Violet Earths always mix well, I think, with everything. And you can see it just mutes that down a little bit. I can use a little bit of the pink pipestone to brighten it up. I'm putting in a little bit more of the Vedita, but you can see that I am using an incredibly watery wash here. So like I'm neutralizing, making the mix a little bit more colorful and then a little bit more neutral. And this one here is Ultramarine Violet with the Gallo copper. And you'll see in these mixes that they're all a little bit similar. And so this is sometimes why I'm hesitant to say exactly what I'm mixing, because with colors that you have, you can generally get to somewhere fairly similar. You don't always have to have exactly the same colors. So this one here is the Olive Pearl with the Ultramarine Violet. Again, kind of a muted version of those same kind of colors. And let's see here. So I always love how the paint kind of dries in the palette lids. This is the red with a little bit of that muted pink there. So again, like your reds or like, you know, Quin pinks type colors mixed with a little bit of white and a little bit of a like burnt sienna will make just beautiful combos. I'm adding a little bit of the orange with a little bit of that pearlescent pink as well. So just looking at kind of different ways to create the colors that you would normally see like in sunsets or things like that, but in kind of a little bit of an exciting way as well. So I'm adding in a little bit of the Sedona here to just, again, make these really yummy neutrals. This one here is the red with the barite, and you can see it makes this really beautiful kind of muted strawberry pink, really lovely. What's this one? The slate grey. I find this quite nice to mix with really all the things and get a kind of a cool muted version of them. So whereas if you use like the Sedona or like a burnt sienna, you're going to get a warmer version. Mixing them with this makes a cooler version, which is quite nice. And this one here is just the manganese and the copper. I always love mixing things that are very close to each other, and then you get these really, really nice like tertiaries, like, yeah, very, very interesting kind of mid tones. So yeah, mixing that with a little bit of the purpurite as well. So I'm going to show you, I think, how I kind of usually mix things for the mountains. So I'll use a little bit of one of these granular ones, and then something like maybe a purpurite or a blue, and then I'll just kind of keep, so this one is the Violet Earth, or the Swiss Violet Earth with the purpurite, And yeah, that's pretty much the kind of thing that I would use. And then I'll put in some of the kind of creases in the mountains, these folds, and the things that you can kind of see where the mountain is curving and kind of undulating. So that is, we're going to do a couple more here. That is kind of how I generally think about mixing these different colors. You can see here, like, I'm using the greens with blues, even like the softer blues, so it doesn't always have to be like a green with a deeper blue, because often in landscapes you want to kind of the further away it gets, the cooler toned it gets, so you'll be mixing it with like some of these deeper blues, but you can also mix it with like these more brighter and lighter blues, and just really enjoy and kind of change things up. So I'm adding in a little bit of the lavender here. This is a really lovely one, like the lavender with this kind of muted pink as well. So okay, so you can see I painted some clouds in the little emblem there, and we're going to do just a little vignette of kind of this landscape, and I'll kind of show you my process of how I am approaching clouds and things, especially because it's watercolor and I only have a few minutes. So So often with watercolor, you kind of are painting wet in wet for this first situation, but because I only have a few minutes, I don't want to wet the entire page and wait for that to dry, or have to keep kind of putting color in. So I've basically been taking a very light kind of wash and painting kind of the clouds in negatively, so painting around them and just kind of adding in the sky. So once the cloud shapes are in there, I take a very light kind of shadow color, and then I will just kind of shade those in, and sort of at the bottom there, a little bit around sort of one side in these kind of curves around the clouds. And yeah, then I might like soften that out a little bit. I'll wet my brush, damp it, and then just soften it out a little bit. And then let's see, I'm mixing up a color here for the hills, I think. So I'm just kind of letting you see kind of how I mix things, and like even the ratio of kind of pigment to water for different things. So in the sky we started very softly, we started adding more color. In the clouds we were soft, and then here in the mountains we're adding like a stronger saturation of color, like more pigment right into the onset of those mountains, again, if you were tentative, you would just do a lighter wash, so just more water on your brush like we did in the clouds, and just block that in very carefully, and then you could just easily add more pigment. But you can see how these pigments are creating just these, they're already creating the ambience on these mountains. They're already creating like the valleys and the dips, and yeah. And so then we just go back in, so you can see like I've done kind of a lighter color for the mountains that are receding at the back of the horizon line, and then we're just going in with a little bit of the watercolor here. So I'm using a little bit of what I put in the mountains and just creating a color. You can see here I am color for the water, but here I am just going back in and softening out a little bit of the clouds, softening out a little bit of the sky there just before it dries. And I think we're just going to go back in here and just kind of add a little bit more texture into the hills here. Just kind of before that dries, just fix up anything that you want to fix up. I added in sort of a tiny bit of this kind of muted peach with a little bit of this blue mix in the sky there, and basically that's it. So I've tried to simplify it to sort of get the most impact out of just a few moments. So working with color, working with the shapes, the form, and kind of just allowing the watercolor also to do a lot of that work. So working our way through these mini palettes, the next one we're going to look at is this Art of Soil one. And this is such a gorgeous little palette. This won't be our next video. It'll be our next video about these mini palettes, but our next actual video will be favorite mixes from winter. And we'll kind of wrap up the Color a Day project. And then hopefully the landscape class will be ready, and then we will work on the Art of Soil palette. But you can see here, like, these are swatches from my Roman Schmoll palette, and it's very similar colors as well. So you can, Roman Schmoll is a great affordable way to start as well. And so you can see here, I just used the colors off this page and just did another kind of little variation on that scene to show you that, lots of different colors, color combinations can work, and that is just a really good quick process to kind of get that down. So this day I was really loving these like powder blues kind of peeking through the sky, and it was just a really lovely kind of day. So we went out there, and I have had a little go at painting here. I am still pretty, it takes me, because again it's very quick, it takes kind of all my concentration to really do this. So I'm not very good at filming it and painting it for you yet, but but hopefully it's just nice to see kind of some of the mixing process, and how I'm kind of trying to approach that on location. So So I thought this was important as well, because on this day, the clouds, the main thing were the shadows in the clouds were very dark. So I kind of changed up my approach a little bit, and I put the shadows from the clouds in first before I even went around those, and kind of left that more white kind of outline of the clouds. So this is where like it helps kind of practicing these things, and then you're able to kind of assess very quickly, is there a way to change that process? Like that is my general process to kind of outline the clouds. But on a day like this where the sort of shadows of the clouds were very prominent and the darkest thing in the sky, then that was kind of the thing that I went with to kind of put those in and block those in first. So I always love the mixes on the palette. But yeah, so that's a really kind of interesting thing about this, is that you do kind of have to quickly, like I love that powder blue, you do have to kind of quickly assess, you know, based on your general approach, like is there a change that needs to be made, or you know, what colors would work best, what mixes. And that's when it's really helpful to have already done a lot of work on the mixing and things like that. You can see these 6 hawks here, they live right here, and every time little Rosie goes outside, the hawks just appear. So yeah, it's been a bit of a worry, but yeah, we have just been having a lovely relaxing morning at me and Millie. Bye guys.